You likely believe you are the independent architect of your own life, that your choices are born from a stable internal character that stays the same regardless of where you are. We rely on the idea of the good apple, the person whose innate moral compass is too strong to be corrupted. But research suggests our character is less a fixed object and more a reflection of the environment surrounding it. Human behavior is highly responsive to external triggers. This sensitivity is the primary tool of dark psychology, the study and application of psychological principles to influence or control people in harmful ways. To understand the scale of this influence, we have to look at 13 landmark experiments. They offer objective proof that when a good apple is placed in a bad barrel, the barrel usually wins. These studies provide a map of the modern world. Recognizing these psychological patterns is the only reliable way to see the invisible strings currently pulling your own actions. The override of your autonomy begins with classical conditioning. This is a learning process where a neutral stimulus becomes associated with a trigger that already produces a physical response. Ivan Pavlov proved this by pairing the sound of a bell with the delivery of meat powder to dogs. Eventually, the animals began to salivate at the sound alone. Their bodies had been programmed to react to a bell as if it were food. Even your willpower is a variable of your environment. In the marshmallow test, preschoolers were told they could have one treat now or two if they waited 15 minutes. While this is often seen as a test of innate self-control, letter replications show that children from unstable backgrounds opt for the immediate reward because in their world, the future payoff is never guaranteed. If your reflexes and your willpower are subject to outside conditions, you might assume your identity is at least protected by your memories, but even the past can be rewritten. Studies on false memories have shown that authority figures can successfully implant entirely fabricated events into a subject's mind. Through simple suggestion, people have been led to vividly remember being lost in a mall as a child or being attacked by an animal, despite neither event ever happening. When your physical reactions, your self-control, and your memories can be authored by someone else, the idea of the rational, independent self begins to fade. We also acquire behaviors simply by watching others. This is observational learning. In the Bobo doll experiment, children watched an adult punch and hammer an inflatable doll. Left alone, the children didn't just imitate the violence. They invented new, creative ways to be aggressive. This pressure to mimic others can override what we see with our own eyes. This diagram shows a test from the Asch conformity experiment. Participants had to identify which of the 3 lines on the right matched the length of the one on the left. The answer is obvious. Yet, when surrounded by a group of actors who unanimously chose the wrong line, 75% of participants went along with the group at least once. They abandoned the objective truth to avoid the discomfort of standing out. We are also trapped by our need for consistency. On a crowded beach, researchers staged a radio theft, and almost no one moved to stop it. However, if the owner simply asked a stranger to watch their things, 19 out of 20 people became vigilantes, physically restraining the thief to uphold their small verbal commitment. In the digital age, this scales through emotional contagion. This is a process where a person subconsciously adopts the emotions of those in their social circle or their digital feed. Platforms have successfully altered the real-world moods of millions just by filtering the ratio of happy or sad posts in a user's feed. Your daily decisions and your emotional state are rarely your own. They are the echoes of the crowds, the commitments, and the algorithms that surround you. Morality itself can be suspended by a simple clock. In the Good Samaritan study, theology students were told to deliver a talk on helping others. When researchers told them they were late, those students stepped directly over a man slumped in a doorway, ignoring his groans to stay on schedule. Arbitrary labels can also manufacture conflict. In the Robbers Cave experiment, researchers split 22 boys into 2 groups at a summer camp. Within days, the mere existence of a rival group led to physical raids and dehumanizing insults, proving how quickly we turn on those labeled as other. Once an institution applies a label, we stop looking for evidence. This is institutional blindness, a phenomenon where a systemic environment causes people to ignore facts that contradict an assigned status. In the Rosenhan experiment, Sane people checked into psychiatric wards claiming to hear voices. Once they were admitted and acted normally, the staff never noticed they were healthy, labeling their ordinary behavior as symptomatic because they were in a hospital. These psychological levers have devastating real-world consequences. During the trial of Adolf Eichmann, the world watched a man who had facilitated the Holocaust defend his actions as a simple matter of following orders. Stanley Milgram tested this defense in a lab. He found ordinary people would administer what they believed were lethal electric shocks to a stranger just because an authority figure told them it was absolutely essential to continue. 2/3 of participants obeyed to the very end. This obedience is often driven by role internalization, the process where we adopt the behaviors expected of our assigned status. In the Stanford prison experiment, healthy college students randomly assigned to be guards began abusing their prisoners within hours. They weren't bad people. They were people doing what they thought their role required. Morality is not a permanent fixture of our soul. It is a fragile construct that can be dismantled by time pressure, labels, and the commands of an authority figure. These 13 experiments demonstrate how much of our lives is shaped by external forces. Our minds respond to subtle nudges, social pressures, and authoritative roles, even when we feel most in control. We cannot change our fundamental psychological architecture. We evolved to be social, to be influenced, and to adapt to the groups we inhabit. However, you can learn to intercept these triggers. By recognizing the mechanics of the bad barrel, like the bell, the group lie, or the uniform, you gain a second of clarity. That second is where you can stop the conditioned response before it starts. Free will is found in the gap between the trigger and your reaction. By identifying the invisible strings, you gain the power to decide for yourself whether or not to let them pull.